Hi, welcome to OMS Planetary Watch. My name's Olga Morales, and today I have another installment about the cycles for this year. I've just been putting together my forecast for my inner circle about 2026, the way Gann did it. And Gann had a method of just using the ending number of the year. So our focus this year is obviously number six. And he had a method of looking back at years ending in six and then making like a composite or also an analysis of what it may mean. So of course I do exactly as the he was doing. And so when you do that, you realize that so many things happened in the years ending in six in the past. Okay. And so let's have a look because we know, most people probably know already, that this year, according to the Chinese cycles, the new year starts on the 17th of February and it's the year of the fire horse. Okay. Now, the Chinese cycles, they repeat every 60 years. We get the same animal and the same element returning. And as astrologers, we know that 60 years is a Jupiter Saturn synodic cycle that repeats at the same point every 60 years. So it's all related. And of course, if we go back with lots of 60 years, you'll see that the years ending in six have been quite significant historically. And so today, really, I'll show you some of them, but the most important because Gann actually wrote, when he wrote his coded novel, The Tunnel Through the Air, um, he published that in 1927, but the actual first page talks about the San Francisco earthquake in 1906. So this cycle goes back directly to Tunnel Through the Air, okay? And then he doesn't mention 1666, but he would have known that when he was doing the research himself, okay? So 360 years ago, we had the Great Fire of London. Okay, and 120 years ago was the San Francisco earthquake. Now, they were both years of fire horses, okay, with the Chinese horoscope. Fire, and both those years were great fires. I mean, the San Francisco earthquake was obviously a massive earthquake, but then there was fire for a week, I think, that destroyed everything. So this is pivotal. There's pivotal cycles, and I always get blown away when I do this type of research. So let me show you. If you don't already know, on the 17th of February this year, 2026, is a solar annular eclipse, okay? And it also happens to be the beginning of the Chinese New Year. It's at 28 degrees of Aquarius, 49, and it turns out to be the fire horse, okay, for the next year. And that cycle, as I said, returns every 60 years. But the other important thing for us as well, as astrologers all have been warning everybody, is that the Saturn Neptune conjunction, where they're together in the 0 degrees of Aries, okay? So they have a 36-year cycle. So we have cycles here that repeat. And they also fit into one another because it's larger cycles and another cycle, wheels within wheels, okay, like Ezekiel says. And the other thing is that Mars is actually a fire sign ruled by, sorry, Aries is a fire sign ruled by Mars. So we have the Chinese fire horse, we have a fire, and we also have fire with these two planets. And if you've watched my previous video, I also show how the Pluto and Uranus may not look like it, but they also, their midpoint, you can also see it, that comes to this degree in Aries, okay? It's about 3 degrees in Aries. So they're all linking up as midpoints because I study midpoints. Okay, they call me the midpoint queen. And I go back, if you, I recommend you watch my previous videos because this cycle is amazing. Okay, so what have we got? We've got the great cycles, I've called them. We've got, this is our fire horse year, but we've got Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune. Okay, so Jupiter and Saturn, they meet every 20 years, but on their third one at 60, they come back to the same point in the zodiac, which they were called the chronocraters, okay? And they created time, the time creators, the timekeepers, time creators, because this cycle was used, it goes back historically, it was used for everything, okay? Then we have the Saturn and Neptune, like they're coming together in 0 degrees of Aries, and they have a 36-year cycle. Okay. Then we have Jupiter and Neptune. Okay. They have a 13-year cycle. So these characters, these three outer planets, are part of this 60 and 36 year, and also the 13, because it's like 12 to 13 years. Okay, it sort of fits in exactly in this cycle as well. So, as I said, when we start adding, if we start with 2026 and we take away 60, we get to 1966, another 60, that would be 120. We go to 1906. This is when we had the San Francisco earthquake. Then we go back 1846. 1786, 1726, and 1666 after 360 years. Okay, this is a big number, again, used it all the time. So let's have a look at some numerology now. Okay, so 2026, when we add that up, the digits becomes 1, right? Minus 60, and I always reduce even the degrees or the years, we reduce it to 6. Then we get 1996. When you add that together, it's a 4. When we take away 120 years or degrees, which adds up to 3, we get 1906. When we add that, we get 7. Take away 180 degrees, which adds up to 9, we get 1846, which becomes a 1, the same as 2026. So they're both universal years, 1. Take away 240, which adds up to 6, we get 1786, which is a 4. Take away 360, which adds to 3, we get 1726, which adds up to a 7. When we take away 360, which adds up to 9, we get 1666, which becomes a universal year 1 as well. So 2026, 1846, and 1666 all add up to 1. They're universal ones, okay? So let's have a look, as I just said, and they're all fire horses and universal ones. So this is a cycle that includes numerology plus the cycles of the 60 years, the Chinese New Year, the Saturn Jupiter cycle. It's all linked, but it's all linked in with the number 9 as well. Fascinating, eh? So the reason being is that 180, either degrees or years, or 360, they both add up to 9. Okay, so that means that the years are going to be the same because we've only got the 9 digits when it comes to numerology. Okay, the 0 is a repeat. So more maths. So this includes 2 synodic cycles are involved. We've got Jupiter, Saturn, 20 years, but they return to the same degree every 60, as I've shown you. And we've got the Jupiter, Neptune, which come together every 36 years. Now, 180 is 3 times 60, but also 5 times 36. And 360 is 6 times 60 or 10 times 36. So you can see how these two cycles work in sync in this whole pattern here. Okay, so isn't it amazing when you look at this, the maths, the cycles, the numerology? It's a universal code. I know a lot of people believe we live in a matrix, but you can see this matrix, the numbers. Okay, so now just to bring in Gann and Bible prophecy, if you haven't read Tunnel Through the Air, his coded novel, I recommend it if you like this sort of work because it's all coded and you need to be a bit of a code breaker to understand it. Very much into Bible cycles, numerology, astrology. And so I've been hooked on it for like 20 years. It takes you down incredible rabbit holes, which I call more like black holes. But anyway, in Ezekiel, we've got this a day for a year, okay? And as astrologers, we know that as directions or secondary progressions where we progress the chart by 1 day and we get a new chart. Okay, so 36 days becomes 36 years. Sorry, 360 days becomes 360 years as well. If we go 7, remember the number 7, the earth was created in 6 days and rested on 7, but 7 times 360 is 2520. That's called, it's a prophetic number in the Bible, but it's also called the prophetic week. Okay, then when we say 72 times 360, we get 25,920. This is called the great year, the processional cycle, right? And 360 is a master cycle, and involves the markets, weather, war, and human history. And really, the Bible's coded astronomically and cycle text of 360 is the core harmonic, and also its harmonics of that, the division of 360 as well. Okay, so this is going back 360 years, was the Great Fire of London. And going back 120 years, we go back to the San Francisco earthquake, which is a third of a 360. Okay, so you can see how hundreds of injured perish in flames. So it's all to do with fire. Okay, so just to add a little bit more, this is called astrocartography. And what I've done is I plotted the actual solar eclipse on the 17th of February onto the map, okay, geodetically. And this is our Chinese New Year and the fire horse starting. So you can see already that the eclipse, you can see the sun and the moon, they're on the midheaven over Greenland, and X marks the spot here. So everyone wants Greenland at the moment. That's the focus of attention on a global scale. We also have the Saturn Neptune, because they're coming together in Aries going up through London, but also very close to Rome. Now, I've done a video called The Sack of Rome if you want to see more of this. What's interesting about Rome, when I did a bit of research on it, is that the founder of Rome was Romulus, who was the son of Mars. Okay. Now, we know that Aries, so technically Rome is the Mars city. And we know that Aries is ruled by Mars. So, like, Rome is in the focus. Everything I do, there's something to do with Rome. There was also a really huge earthquake in a year ending in 6, if you want to look back in that area as well. The other thing we can see is that the planet of revolution, Uranus, is culminating over Iran, okay, which is in the focus at the moment, and also on the IC going through San Francisco, okay. So these areas are highlighted by these planetary alignments at the moment. Me being in Australia, we've had we've got the eclipse going through this part of Australia. Now, the east coast of Australia, we've had fires. Sorry, I've got a bit of hay fever. We've had fires and flooding pretty much in the same week all along this band here. So we know that eclipses have an impact on weather patterns, earthquakes, volcanoes, because there's like the pull on the earth. Okay, and this has been known anciently. They were able to predict when these sort of geopolitical and the earth magnetic field changes, everything becomes unstable. Okay, so I've put this chart up. You can have a look at if it highlights any areas. The other one I wanted to actually, I've just remembered, this one goes through the center here, all these places in America, but it highlights New Orleans as well. And I remember that 1927 features in Tunnel Through the Air. That was the flooding of the Mississippi River, and I think this area is being highlighted again. Okay. So yeah, I don't know if I want to say this is the actual eclipse. Okay, the pathway. So it's over Antarctica, parts of South Africa, and parts of very low parts of Argentina. Okay, that's the actual center line, they call it. Okay, these are all the partial lines. So it is a southern hemisphere eclipse. So, and also this part goes through the Saturn Neptune, goes through China here and parts of India, Calcutta, Kathmandu, in that area there. Okay. So, yeah, keep looking at this chart if you're interested in this sort of thing. So, thanks for listening. That's another little amazing when I do more of this work. Some of these cycles blow my mind, just how they all work. But you can see how the numbers, the planets, the numerology, they all link in. They're all really based on planetary cycles. Our numbers actually evolved from planetary cycles. So I have an inner group if you're interested. I also have written some books. And yeah, if you like my information, give me a like and subscribe. I always come up with new things to be researching. I think this year is pivotal for this sort of information to come out. And thank you for listening.